It started around 1911, 1912, when an uncle of mine gave me a Eastman Kodak folding camera #3 as a birthday present. And I started to photograph right away. And one of my first pictures was this picture in Berlin, the Grunewald Lake. I put the film in a wooden frame and exposed it to the sun to develop in daylight. And I was amazed up to the day that it's possible to photograph and see the pictures. And I was rather satisfied until an acquaintance of mine who lived across the street came to me and says, "But look, you can enlarge this here. You can do this and this." Enlarging, what's this? You showed me a contraption of a wooden box with a frosted light inside, frosted bulb. You can move up and down. And this was that second when the photo bug bit me. And I saw enormous possibilities.
70 years later, Alfred Eisenstaedt, now aged 85, is still busily taking photographs. Eisenstaedt has been called the father of photojournalism, the man who invented the candid camera. At a time when television did not exist and newspapers carried few pictures, he was one of the first to photograph concerts, literary meetings, political rallies, and social events. Working for the Associated Press in Germany and later for Life magazine in America, he has probably photographed more famous people than any other photographer. His pictures of musicians, writers, actors, and politicians of pre-war Germany are a unique historical record of events which shaped much of our present-day life.
On the 3rd of December 1929, I became professional, and 6 days later I was around Stockholm, did my first assignment for the Associated Press as a freelance photographer. It was the Nobel Prize Award for Literature, Thomas Mann, for the Buddenbrooks. Behind him sits Selma Lagerlöf, the great Swedish author who also got a prize. After the session was over, the Nobel Prize, Thomas Mann addressed fellow scientists and other people backstage.
On an occasion like this, were there many photographers around?
No, not many, but there were about 3. There were probably Keystone was at that time probably the Associated Press, and I don't know the others. But you were always dressed properly, not in the fashion today, not in jeans. It didn't exist at that time, no. But you had to be dressed always properly.
On all your assignments?
On all assignments, always tie. Oh yes, definitely. I had a cutaway, I had later on tails and black tie and so on.
Would you take many photographs in order to get this
No, this was done with glass plates. I took 1 picture, and when somebody moved, was very bad, I took 2, because you see, they were very heavy in my pockets. My pockets, especially my pockets for my tails and black tie, were reinforced because I had to carry so many glass plates and steel holders. At the same time, I did also the confirmation of 3 babies with their proud fathers. Notice the fashion. Everybody in Germany had these collars, these, how do you call it?
Stiff collars.
Stiff collars, yes. Now, this is what I love. This is a toy society in Berlin. And here, elderly men, with stiff collars, you know, it's impossible today, naturally, assemble some rails on the floor of the society. Now, every good German at that time had to have an aquarium, tropical fish, guppies, Siamese fighting fish, some goldfish, and so on. This is the aquarium society. All these people have, again, stiff collars. I went to East Prussia and photographed an agricultural school. They were milking cows, and not to carry this, they had their little stools, milking stools, attached to their back. Also, at the same school, I photographed coachmen of Prussian Junkers, learning how to hold the reins of horses. They look like Junkers themselves. And I photographed Albert Heim, a butcher shop. At that time, it was 370 years old. At this butcher shop, the frankfurters were invented. And these are 3 generations of butchers, all called Heim. I think it was around 1931, or here's 25, it was around 1930 or 1931. I was sent to, by the Associated Press at that time, to the island, Baltic island of Hiddensee, the Baltic, to photograph the great German author Gerhard Hauptmann. And this is not a pose picture. He really was walking on the beach, and to me he looked like a personification of Wolfgang von Goethe, a Goethe-like figure. I met him and snapped him with a Mirrorflex camera, you know. I'm amazed that it is so sharp. But later the same day, I wanted to try some formal picture. But when I look at this picture today, I'm amazed how bad I was at that time. I mean, it couldn't happen to me. You know what bothers me is this. It wouldn't happen today anymore. You see, today, you know how I photograph today? I look always at the background first. That's the difference. The light is fine, but this shouldn't happen here. See, this is not nice, not good. Many people have asked me time and again, how is it possible that you could take so many pictures of musicians and conductors and singers and then didn't object? The reason is because there was only one Eisenstaedt around. There was no other photographer around who did that type of thing in the early 30s. And I had the Irmanox camera, the first so-called candid camera with glass plates. This is Wilhelm Furtwängler, photographed at the Berlin Philharmonic in 1932. As you see, people listening to the concert are very attentive. He plays, I remember, the Fifth Symphony by Beethoven. I was sitting usually in the first front row when singers were there, or between the members of the orchestra. And no question were asked, and I got permission, because I was dressed like them, and everybody thought I'm a musician myself. That's the reason I could do all these things. Here, I'm sitting among the musicians, dressed in a dark suit, with my tripod between my legs and photographing. I photographed from the same place, from the same position, Igor Stravinsky, young Igor Stravinsky. I don't know whether he played Petrushka or something like this, probably he did.
Were people shocked by his music?
I don't remember that, because you see, I hardly listened to music, because I was, at that time, it happens the same thing if somebody learns how to drive a car. You pay attention to all the movements you do. This is not, didn't come automatically as in later years. Now everything comes more or less automatically. Also in 1932 or 31, I photographed Bruno Walter, conductor of the Berlin Philharmonic, and Sergei Rachmaninoff, sitting together before a concert.
How did you feel as a young man suddenly photographing all those very, very famous people?
I felt also rather important, but I never in my life was conceited. This was a job for me, and I was very proud that I was the one who could do it, and I was very much interested. This was a work of love.
Are you a shy man?
I'm a very shy man when I don't have a camera, otherwise I'm not so shy. I'm a little bit shy among crowds, you know. In crowds, I'm a little shy. I don't like that people look at me and so and so. I like to be like a little mouse in a mouse hole. not to be seen. A very, very famous picture, never repeated. On the left, you see, taken in Berlin at the Philharmonic before a recital, is Nathan Milstein, Vladimir Horowitz, and the late Gregor Piatigorsky, cello. Now comes a picture I'm very proud of taking it. Arturo Toscanini talking to Wieland Wagner before the Bayreuth Festival started. And this was taken with a Leica camera, and I'm also very proud, Richard Strauss in Salzburg. It was in 1932 or 33. You see, photography just started, the photojournalism started. We didn't know very much about photography. For me, this was always an adventure, and I was always amazed that something came out. And those pictures I developed myself quite often in hotel rooms. I have still here a little tank I developed my films with.
And was it a well-paid job at that time?
No, it was not very well paid. But you did it, you see, at that time, nothing was, we didn't count it, money wasn't counted, we did it for the love of it. Everything was just different from today. If today, people ask today when they get any job, how much? That time was done for the love of it. One of my earliest assignments was to go to Paris, where I photographed with larger cameras, a rehearsal of Swan Lake Ballet. Didn't have an exposure meter. I was only accustomed to that Rembrandt type light. I had only lights coming from the ceiling. If you use any artificial light, kills always the mood. So you get pictures, but the mood is gone.
I mean, what is the essence of a good photo story?
This is good as the beholder sees it, you know. Sometimes editors like a picture, I don't like it. Something has to please me. Now, there are many things, for instance, which don't please me. But I'm a good soldier, you see. I very rarely refuse an assignment. And people have said, why don't you have an assignment? Yes, when somebody gives me an assignment, let's say, I complain later after I've done the story. One of my first pictures with a Leica on a tripod. A gala evening at the La Scala in Milan. Now this is a nice picture. You see, the lower boxes are always people with white tie. But I was looking for some specific thing, because this is a pleasing picture, but it's not the picture, until I spied from somewhere here, as you see, an empty box besides that, but you have to have it in your head. And this was for years and years and years still is one of my prized pictures of that lovely, lovely young society girl at the premiere at La Scala in Milan. Without that girl, if you take this away, it's no picture at all. People have asked me, how did you expose? I don't know, but probably at least half a second, at least, on a very unsturdy tripod. This picture of Marlene was done in 1928, after she did The Blue Angel, directed by Joseph von Sternberg. It was published time and again. Now this is a year later. I photographed her in 1929 at the Hotel Adlon at the press ball. I asked her to pose for me. She was in tails and slacks. It was unheard at that time.
Do you think that people pose very much for the camera?
No, that depends. It has something to do probably with the personality of a photographer. I just don't know. See, I never push people around, so I have to be smooth. I have to more or less diplomat, to be a diplomat than a photographer. People very often don't take me very serious because I have so little equipment. When I married in 1949, my late wife said, but where's your real cameras? I said, these are my real cameras. I had small cameras. And I still don't go around with lots of equipment. In 1932, the Associated Press sent me to London to photograph, to do many stories at Oxford and in Cambridge and anything else I saw. And I wanted to photograph George Bernard Shaw, but he was not accessible. And somebody told me, look, he is a vegetarian and bananas are the thing. Why don't you try to do something about this? So I bought him a bunch of bananas and sent out a portfolio of my portraits with him. In 2 days I had an appointment. And here he looks at my pictures. He was charming. When I wanted to pose him, he says, look, you don't have to pose me. I'm a photographer myself. And he did everything for me, anything I wanted. He played even the spinet or piano, what it was. He was very tall. He was wonderful. Look at that old typewriter. It's a Smith Premier. He typed himself and his secretary, I think Miss Part or what it is. I wish many people would be as cooperative as Charlie was. I photographed at the ice rink of the Grand Hotel in St. Moritz, a so-called waiter school, where waiters are being taught by the head waiter how to serve drinks to British guests. This is one of my great prize pictures. Now to do a smash picture, as I photographed with a mirrorflex camera, a reflex camera with glass plates, I put that chair here, focus at the chair, and asked the waiter to pass by. That's what he did. In 1933, I was sent to Geneva to photograph the 15th session of the League of Nations, and there appeared Dr. Joseph Goebbels, the Minister for Enlightening and Propaganda of Adolf Hitler. And you see him, this picture has never been published. You see it for the first time. He smiles, but not at me. Look at his eyes, very important. He looks at somebody else, whom he likes very much. Now, he sees me. Probably an enemy, I don't know what he thinks. This is from Goebbels with love. These are the eyes of hate. Then, 2 months later, on the 6th of August, the president, Paul von Hindenburg, died, and Hitler became Führer of the Reich, and this is the first time he appeared in Führer uniform. You see Hitler strutting in to attend the funeral. Behind him, Fat Goering, Marshal of the Air Force, the overfatted, overstout Goering marched in.
What I think is very interesting about this photograph is the composition of the two white lines of the hats going through.
Yeah, but this is not these white lines. You see, this is not my doing. I couldn't do anything. It was there. I mean, anybody could have done it. This has nothing to do with the photographer, yes. You only have eyes to see and see how the composition. You can lower the camera and do this. I mean, I had always an eye for composition, probably.
How did you feel to photograph a man you must have hated so much?
When I have a camera in my hand, I don't know fear.
Like so many of the artists he photographed, Eisenstaedt was forced to leave Germany, and in 1935 he emigrated to America. His candid approach to photography was immediately appreciated, and the second cover of the newly founded Life magazine carried one of his pictures. No fewer than 90 covers were to follow, and he became its most famous photographer. On over 2,000 assignments, he traveled all over the world, recording events and capturing personalities. but the cold statistics say little about the zest and curiosity of the man who produced this formidable record of time passing. The titles of his books, 50 Years of Friends and Acquaintances, Witness to Our Time, The Eye of Eisenstaedt, People, and Eisenstadt's Germany, sum up a lifetime's occupation. Many of his photographs have received the highest honors. Millions of people are familiar with the pictures, yet few know the name of the man who took them and whose office contains an historical treasure of a unique kind.
I've literally thousands of pictures, an 8 by 10 and 11, 14. And these are thousands of contact prints. And among some of my famous pictures, I will show you some.
You found immediately work when you came to America?
Yes, I worked at that time with the Associated Press. And
Life did not exist, Life magazine?
No, Life existed, didn't exist at that time. Life came out a year later. Life magazine started in 1936. This is the second Life cover. And this was taken in West Point, the Cadet Academy.
Was it very different what was expected from you than what you've done in Germany?
I haven't changed my style. It's just the same thing. You see, when you look at who's who, they say that I brought candid camera to America. I don't know whether I did, but I started that type of series with Life magazine. For me, this was old hat. I did it for years and years in Europe. But here, you know, people took only one picture. Before Life came out, they didn't have series. They had only a single picture. This was the difference. I show you this picture for two reasons. This was done in 1937, when the managing editor gave me an assignment to photograph Roosevelt Hospital in New York. Now, many people have asked me a question, but didn't the editors tell you exactly what they wanted to take? I said, goodness, no. At Life magazine at that time, a Life photographer was an individualist, and he could photograph anything he wanted to do. Nobody told him what to do. But I tell you what he told me. He had only one wish, and he told me so. He says, Alfred, you can do anything you wish to do. The only thing I don't want to see is blood. How different from New Life magazine. They photograph now lots of blood and in color. At that time it was black and white. At the same time, I did this picture of nurses, the same nurses here, but you have to have first the idea and the authority and not the fear to ask people, which is most important. I told you, I have no fear when I have my camera. So I asked, I'm not so shy. Otherwise, I may be shy. Now, the people tell me that I will, when I'm in heaven, for instance, when I'm not on this earth anymore, people will remember that picture. Oh, this is the photographer who took that picture of VJ Day, 15th of August, 1945. I was sent down to the Times Square region, and I was very lucky because I found this man starting from this building, grabbing any and every girl in sight, whether she was a grandmother, whether she was stout, thin, old, thick, thin, doesn't make any difference. And I was running ahead of him with my little Leica, looking over my shoulder like this, but never pleased me. Everything was cocked, everything was a fixed focus, you know, about 10 or 15 feet away. Until I saw a flash of a second, something white being grabbed. And I turned around and photographed him kissing that girl. I will show it to you to explain more. If this girl would have been dressed in dark, it would never have been a picture. If the sailor would have had a white uniform, would never made a picture. Now, I want to show you the interesting thing. I took exactly 4 pictures. And this is a picture I picked because that pleased me best. It was done within a few seconds, 4 or 5 seconds. He was still kissing the girl.
Why did this particular picture please you more than the other?
On account of composition. You see, when you look, it is best, for my eyes, bestly balanced. You see some white. See, this man doesn't look good. He is too tall. He takes the emphasis away from this picture. He is just right. He's too tall again. He has nothing. You see, this is the best. You see, if this sailor would have been here, wouldn't have been good. Too much white. He's standing out. This is the best picture of all. It pleases me best. Another picture will be remembered when I'm in heaven is that picture I took at the University of Michigan. I had to do a story on the brass band. And I wanted to photograph the drum major rehearsing in the morning. And I ran after them, photographed it. And while I was running, all the boys from the faculty, they paraded with him. This is not, people think it's a posed picture. This was never posed, not posed at all. This is a natural picture. People imitated me later, but this was not posed. While going to the rainforest, not rainforest, when I did the Galapagos Islands, I went to Guayaquil and I saw this old lady sitting at a shrine. But I never am satisfied only with a general view. So I waited and asked her, she couldn't, and took a picture of her, a close-up of her, and that's the picture.
Is there a decisive moment for a photograph to take?
There's a wonderful story. While covering the Conservative Party campaign, I traveled with Churchill for several days. Here I had some pictures where he was a little napping, a little dozing, until his son Randolph tapped him on the shoulder because they played the national anthem, God Save the King, and up he shot like a viper. And then I have to tell you a wonderful story of Lord Russell, or Bertrand Russell. When I came to him, I admired his stony face. He was absolutely immovable, like me, you know. I can also be like him, like this. People are frightened of me. I said, my God, how do you do it? And he said to me, a crocodile moves very slowly. I did a story once of the eminent American painter Andrew Wyatt in Cushing, Maine. And this is what I found. You see a drawing of him in the background, a Dalmatian dog on the bed and his famous head there. But I prayed that the dog would disappear. I didn't want to chase the dog away. It came away and I could only take one picture because I had one film, and this is naturally the better picture. Much better than this. See the difference?
Why is it better?
Oh, it pleases me. I don't know why it pleases me. What pleases me, I like. I don't have to agree with you, but it pleases me. I think this is a better picture for me. Several years ago, I got an assignment to go to photograph Paris, which was called, the editors gave me an assignment, they wanted to call it Eisenstadt's Paris. And I said, how awful is that assignment? I said, this is a horrible title for it. Anyway, so I went to Paris and I went with an interpreter around, and any time I raised my camera, he said, Cartier-Bresson has taken this, Konrad Kappa has taken this, Ernst Haas has taken this, he has taken it, everybody has taken it. So there are only two possibilities. Either I go away or commit suicide. Let me do what I want to do, and I did. And it was a very successful story. It was called The Parisians. This was photographed at a puppet theater in the Tuileries. And after this picture was taken, I took some close-up, and this is this. I like this picture better because this is much more exciting, because she screams out, "My God, the dragon is slain." Very often this is only a vision. I mean, just my brain is short-circuited. Only my eyes and my little finger react. Sunday afternoon of a typical Paris concierge and family. You know, I waited, I focused, waited quite some time, did this, you know, focused, was done very fast. Without that sound, the camera clicked.
Mr. Eisenstaedt, what do you think is the essential qualities for a photographer?
Not a very unobtrusive. He has to be unobtrusive, the type of photograph I do, and to blend in with the people. And have as little equipment as possible. And when people ask me, "What are you doing?" I say, I'm always an amateur. When you say you are from a magazine, you're dead. Always dead. An amateur. Innocent amateur. Started photograph yesterday. I was sent to Pennsylvania station while the war was still going on, and these are all American military men saying goodbye to their sweethearts and wives at Pennsylvania station. These were all taken not with the Leica, but the Rolleiflex. You know why with the Rolleiflex? Because with the Rolleiflex, I could focus like this, at that time, with the old Rolleiflex, like this, and hold it for minutes, like this. As you said, I talk to you like this, and watch you, and click there. See? Do this, and watch you again, absolutely motionless, like a stone. They didn't know that I photographed them. But if I would do this, they would see me. What are you doing there? See? Like this, here like this.